Whether you're doing reviews on YouTube or if you're filming a product promo video, you'll need to know how to make your product stand out and look desirable. One of the things that makes a big impact is the lighting. So in this video, I'm going to show you just a few techniques for lighting products. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more gear reviews and tutorials just like this one. Hit the bell to get notified of new videos so that you don't miss anything. I'm also on Instagram, and if you head over there, you'll see announcements, behind the scenes, and bloopers as well. So head over to the account and I'll see you there. Now, products come in many different shapes and sizes, so you may have to adapt your approach depending on what you're working on. Now, I've given you a handful of techniques to get you started. Now, please bear in mind that these are just a few ideas that I use myself. They're not rules, and as well, it all depends on your style and what you want to achieve based on the brief. Now, for my main light, I'm using my favorite thing. I've spoke about this many times. There'll be a link here to the video. The Godox SL60W. I love this light. For the price, it's absolutely fantastic. So this is what I'm using throughout the video. If you do only have the one light, don't fret, because I'll show you some techniques in the video where you can fill in some of those shadows without using a light, and also some affordable alternatives to a fill light or a secondary light, something like that. So stay tuned. Alright, let's jump into the tips, but before we start, I just want to say, a good thing to keep in mind when you're thinking about lighting in general is that you have to think about the shadows just as much as the actual lighting itself. So you'll first want to establish what type of shadows or light you want in your video. So that could be either hard light or soft light. Hard light makes the shadows sharper and more pronounced, giving it a more dramatic effect, whereas soft light makes the shadows softer and smoother. The next thing you want to think about is the angle of your shadows and your light. Now I'm going to show you a variety of different light placements, and you just figure out which one works best for whatever you're working on. Okay, I'm going to give you a tip first. Try to avoid flat lighting. Flat lighting is where you light the product or your subject directly from the front. Now, creating depth in an image is what makes the product stand out, and also it makes it more three-dimensional. And one way to achieve this is by adding shadows in the right places. And if you point the light directly at the subject or the product, you're going to get no shadows and it's going to look very flat. The reason why is because you're not getting any contrast in lights and darks. You can see on my face at the moment, I've got the light coming at me from this angle, so it's creating light here and then shadows on this side, so it's making me stand out a little bit more than if I was just facing the light front on. Right, so technique number one is where you have the light source directly above your product, shining straight down. I'm also using the Aperture Light Dome 2 softbox in all of these examples to get that nice soft light, but you can use any softbox that you have. If you want to use a softbox, as I say, you've got the option of hard light and soft light, so it's entirely up to you what you want to achieve and which look you're going for. Don't forget, the closer you get to the product with the light source, the softer those shadows are going to be, and you can add even more layers of diffusion if you want to soften up those shadows even further. So I've got this as close as I can without the light being in the frame. You can leave it at that if you like, it's a nice effect, or you can fill in some of those shadows either using a reflector, which I prefer because it's not so harsh in this example anyway, or you can use another light either on one side or both sides. It's entirely up to you. It depends which details you want to bring out. And that's the key here. It's focusing and highlighting the features of the product that you want to draw attention to. You can also experiment with moving the reflector or the second light source further away or closer to the product to highlight even more of the product, or less depending on what you want. Technique number two is backlighting. Very similar to the first example, but instead this time we're moving the light source further back and and angling it slightly so that it lights the back of the product. That changes the look again and gives it a bit more of a dramatic look because it creates more shadows on the front of the product. So again, this is up to you depending on what look you want to go for. You might have to fill in some of the shadows with a reflector or some more lights. Again, entirely up to you, but I really like this one. This is my favorite lighting technique actually because it creates shadows in really interesting places, or you can fill in some of those shadows using the reflector again or some secondary light. Technique number 3 is split lighting or side lighting. Just put the light source to the side of the product, and obviously this creates shadows on one side of the product. You have the option to fill the other side if you want to, or leave it in the shadows. It's entirely up to you. Technique number 4, silhouette. This is nice and easy to achieve. Just pop the light directly behind the product. Sometimes though you may have to add some negative fill, which is basically the dark side of your reflector if you've got one. Just make sure that none of the light is being reflected back onto your product in any way. If there is, you'll just have to pop that dark side of the reflector in front of your product, and then it will make sure that your product is staying in the shadows and the background is well lit. Now it's good to use the silhouette technique when your product is an interesting shape. If it's just a box or something like that, it's not going to be very exciting and interesting to look at. Technique number 5, the lights that you're using don't have to be static. You can add even more interest by moving your light source around your product. A couple of tools that I've been using for this is the Andy Cine R1 RGB light. I've done a video of this as well. I'll link it up here so you can have a look if you want some more details. But this is an RGB light. So if you've got a particular color palette that you want to use for the product, this is a great little light to add a little bit more color. Now if you want something smaller, Andy Cine have just sent me this little pocket light. This is incredible, but it's not just a light, it's a really handy tool actually, because it's also a USB charger for your camera batteries. Now these come in a couple of different options. I've gone for the Canon option obviously because I'm using Canon cameras at the moment, but there's also a Sony version and a couple of other versions as well. And they're super small, tiny little things, so they just fit in your pocket or in your bag, nice and easy to carry around. Perfect for these little techniques as well, where you just need to move the light over your product to add that little extra bit of interest in your videos. Oh, it's bright. Awesome. Now what you do is you move these lights either over the top of your product, across the front or around the sides, however you want, whatever effect you're trying to go for. Just move your light around your product to create some really interesting effects. And you'll see this effect a lot in car adverts when they're highlighting certain features of the cars, like the badges or the lights or the smooth paintwork. And it's just, yeah, it's a good one. Right, so they're just a few techniques to get you started. Let me know in the comments below which one was your favourite. Maybe you use some of these already, I'd like to know. But hopefully these are giving you just a couple of new ideas to go and try out. And I'd love to hear how you get on as well. So anyway, I think that's it. Is that it? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more gear reviews and tutorials. And I'll see you in the next video. See you next week. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. See you soon.